I'm Melissa Sorolla, Senior Director of Corporate Communications and Marketing for CPS Energy. And with us today, we have Paula Gold-Williams, our President and CEO, Rudy Garza, our Chief Customer Engagement Officer, and Jesse Hernandez, our Director of Community Strategy. We are going to take this time to give you the latest update regarding outages and restoration, and then we'll go into Q&A, and we hope to get through everybody's questions today, and we'll work to do that. I will turn it over to Paula to give our update. Paula?
Thank you, Melissa, and thank all of you and the media representing our customers across San Antonio who want to get the most up-to-date information firsthand. Your ability to join us this quickly and your diligent perspective of listening to us over these last several days has been very, very helpful. We're an energy company, so we provide energy and our communication systems are improving, but the reach that you help us get is tremendously important. I have to say that we have been very sorry about the implications that have happened to all of our customers. This is an unprecedented weather event that has caused extreme problems, freezing temperatures, problems that we haven't seen before. And our heart goes out to all of our customers who have experienced very long outages, intermittent outages, difficulties in service. And so from that perspective, we continue to really work hard 24/7, 365 to bring them back up. It has been very, very challenging because a lot of our employees, especially those who are out in the field working, but everyone has experienced at some length that they've been out. Some of our employees have been out from the very, very beginning as well. They've had energy issues, no coverage, all of those things that have happened. So we are both sympathetic and empathetic, but still we know our job is to get everything going. I was born and raised in this community. I am passionate about serving. And again, please know that we're never going to stop until we get us back to reliability. And then still we'll be diligently working. The great news that we have right now is there has been improvement in San Antonio's energy status and landscape overnight. So much so that we are in a place where now our capacity of generation that we have safely exceeds the demand that customers are asking for in energy. And we think that we've seen this, and we've seen it also across the state, that things have been levelizing. I will caution and indicate we are not out of the woods. What's happened is the statewide outage management strategy that has been put out there is now suspended. We're at high temperatures and we're still at risk. We're at high levels of need for demand, and we're still at risk across our system. However, it is more stable. And so we suspended it. We wanted people to have more relief. So what's happened is where we had about 200 customers that were out just because we needed to keep the demand low and force that position, we've been able, 200,000 customers, we've been able to make sure that they can now have power. And since last night, most of them have been restored. We still have about 10,000 customers, though, that are out. And these could be customers who have been out for a long time. What's happened is some of the equipment has failed, fuses have blown. And so physically, we have to get people to homes and neighborhoods to restore that last 10,000. Here's our challenge. Looking out the window, I see more snow today than I've seen over the entire system. Underneath the snow is ice and sleet. We had a few of our crews over the last couple of days stranded trying to get to customers. Some crews slept in their vehicles. Some crews couldn't get out of the service center. There were all kinds of issues that we had to worry about. We are still trying our best to get people in the field to get those last 10,000 customers. And we are hoping that the weather conditions don't worsen, don't continue to break tree limbs, take down lines, those kind of things. Now that stuff is normal outage management that we know how to do ultimately, but it's still going to be challenging to get that last few out there. So we again apologize for any customer who's been in an extended outage and is still in an outage today. I think the next biggest point to make is, more than anything, what we've seen is what's making a difference is conservation. Conservation, conservation, conservation. I think this has been a terrible and difficult situation. And when we first came out last week and were asking and talking to all of you about how important conservation has been, because no one had seen the levels of freezing temperatures day after day, we really didn't think, I think as a community or a state, that we had to do something extreme. But since then, I mean, we learned our lesson too. We cut our lights out in our building and went to emergency lighting. Only the floors where the employees have to work to keep the system going are completely on. We reduced the lighting in our parking garage. All of those things happened, but there were many other businesses, city facilities, school districts all over town reducing their lighting needs and changing and reducing their hours, reducing their production requirements, a manufacturing facility. All of that has accumulated and really built up a benefit of bringing the demand for power down. Unadjusted over the peak, we probably had about 5,400 megawatts of power, again, exceeding any other summer peak that we had. Now we're closer to about 4,200 megawatts of power. That's huge. And that has allowed us to get closer and stay under our total capacity of energy that we produce. Again, that's the right balance. We should have, our demand cannot exceed our supply. So I'll close my comments with, again, we still ask our community, if you have power and you're not those 10,000 customers, to make sure that we get the community stable for everyone. We're still asking for continued conservation. I'm sitting here still in the dark, just like I was when my lights were out. I'm just using my window lights, and I'm only clicking on the lights when I move from one room to another. And so I'm minimizing everything I'm doing today to the basic needs, but this way everyone ultimately can get the power that they need. And that's what we continue to ask everybody to do. We will keep you updated. There is a possibility that we could go back to forced outages if we can't keep this condition under control as a state. And so again, everything that San Antonio can do is important. We're 7% of the total generation production. So it's important that we do our part. We are seeing improvement in other communities across the state. ERCOT is still managing intensely and watching everything and informing us of what's happening, but everyone's working hard to get everyone's power back on. And so I'll turn it over to Rudy.
Well, let me start by echoing Paula's sentiment that we are extremely, heartfelt, empathy for our customers who've been under distress over these last few days. Nobody has been more concerned or, more focused on getting through this event than the 3,100 employees at CPS Energy who've been experiencing it. As Paula said, she's been in the dark. My family has experienced, the effects of this event as well. And we're certainly glad the situation is trending in the right direction. We've consistently come back to this message of, conservation. And I want to reiterate that our team has worked with every class of customers across our service area to turn off, what doesn't need turning off. I was on the phone at 10:30 last night with one of our university presidents, asking them to do whatever they could to turn off building lights that aren't necessary and to pay attention to what they're using. We've had, our largest customers, stop their production, facilities, so that our community could help recover. And all of that response in lowering usage goes into the ERCOT, bucket and helps lower the demand across the entire system. And absolutely the extraordinary measures that customers, school districts have pitched in, the large users have pitched in. I've had one-on-one conversations with, hundreds of customers across the city, asking them to please do what they can to lower, their impact on the system. So it is a combination of we've got to continue to do that. As Paula said, there's nothing on in my house except my computer to allow me to keep working. No TVs, no lights, no anything. As my family knows how important it is that we do our part to help get past this. So again, I thank you, every one of you who has been sharing our message and helping customers with awareness to be safe. I would ask you to continue to operate as though we were still in the condition we've been in, because your action will help everybody stay online, hopefully, and because certainly the potential for outages, it always exists. With the state our system is in, so we got to keep it on the right side of it. We got to stay on the right side of that by conserving. And I will stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula and Rudy. We're going to go into Q&A now with our reporters. What will happen is I will call on you, and Adrian will take you off mute, and then you'll have the opportunity to ask your question. We are going to try to get through everyone today, and we'll take a little break in the middle to do a message in Spanish as well. So we're going to go ahead and get started with Sig Christensen with the San Antonio Express News.
Good morning, Sig. You'll be muted now. Sig, you're unmuted now. Please ask your question.
All right, we'll come back to Sig. We'll go to Mariah Medina with KENS 5.
Mariah, thank you for joining. You'll be unmuted now.
Hi there. Good morning. We are wondering, with Ms. Gold-Williams not having her camera on, is she in San Antonio? Just to be clear.
Yes, ma'am. I am. Yes, I am.
And Mariah, we are cameras off right now. We have had some bandwidth and connectivity issues. If you all saw the briefing yesterday, unfortunately, Paula got frozen there in the screen for a little bit. So we are doing audio only for bandwidth issues. Mariah, did you have another question?
No, I did not. Thank you.
All right, next we'll go to Brian Chasnoff with the Express News.
Brian, thank you for joining us. You'll be unmuted now.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Sure, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, great. Can you clarify the situation at area hospitals right now? Are they still experiencing rolling brownouts?
Hello. No, they are not. No one's currently in one of our managed rolling outage processes. We were able to move, about 200,000 customers off of that process. So no one's in that, but people can be down because of the equipment failures, the blown fuses, different things that have happened. So no, that we're actually in a really good place. The outage process that we had that took so many customers down has been suspended. Now, again, it could come back depending on the stresses on the grid, but right now there are no rolling outages. And just really quickly, I don't, just to be helpful, I'm going to try to cut my camera on for a minute. I'm here at my here with the sunlight coming in, and again, we conservation so that are doing digital.
Thank you, Paula. Next, we'll go to Camille Phillips with Texas Public Radio.
Paula, your camera's still on. I know we're having some connectivity issues. Let's go ahead and, there you go. Thank you, ma'am. Camille.
You froze again.
Yes, ma'am, you're frozen again. It's okay. Your audio is great, though. Camille, you'll be unmuted now. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, thank you. Yes, I guess just really the main question I want to know is, last night at the briefing, it sounded like there was definitely no way we're going to have power until Saturday. Is it just conservation, or was weather is not as bad as you expected? And what made the difference to have power back for most people now?
Yes, thank you so much for that question. You know, what I was working through, and it seems like I've done a lot of these conversations, you know, it is a situation where there isn't one single thing that contributes to our status. The temperatures, the cold temperatures, the how wet it is, ice and snow, all that. The ice also contributes to the freezing elements of freezing wellheads for natural gas extraction when we're trying to pull natural gas out of the ground. But that said, it's not just that. It is the weather, it is conservation, and it is the ability to keep the plants up and running. I will say that we don't have a view, ERCOT can see a lot of things that we can't, but we don't have a view of what's happened across the state. But I will say we were able to bring STP-1 back online last night. It's a nuclear plant. It takes a long time to bring up. It's not at full capacity. It's about 500 megawatts of capacity. We're probably getting closer to 200 megawatts of that capacity coming up. So we are bringing back some of the units that have been in short-term repair. And so we think we're having some good timing on that. My guess is that this is a period of time when we are actually doing long-term planned outages. We have one unit, a gas steam unit, that has been in a planned outage, and there's no way it can come back. Again, I talked about previously that outages take anywhere from about 30 to 45 days if things go well. So we can't bring that unit back. But my guess is across the state, there are some units that are coming out of their planned outages as well. And so we'll have a better view of what happened in about a week or so. And then we're going to continue to look at it. But I think it's that whole balance of the temperatures are cold across the state. We had a little gap last night. It's coming in hard again, but we think we had a little gap of that. We think conservation has accumulated and done very well. We were able to keep plants on and bring them out of temporary short-term maintenance. And then the long-term outages that were happening on plants, I think we're having some good timing across the state. And the last thing I'll say is it matters still that we're able to keep as much of our diversified portfolio up. We have coal units and we have gas units. We have nuclear. All of our units are blended together to do well. Now, we're not going to get a lot of renewable power today. That's, again, understandable. But there is going to be perhaps a bit of wind coming out. We haven't checked the full status of that. So again, making sure that everything is going as much as possible. And when we look at the whole landscape, I think we reached a pocket across Texas where we hit a really good, beneficial, positive movement in the right direction. But we still have to be diligent and not assume that we're out of the woods yet.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to Emily Bockham.
Thank you for joining us. You'll be unmuted now.
Paula, thank you for showing your face. People in San Antonio need to see the face of this crisis, so thank you. Here's my question. People want to know about their bills. How do they pay their bills with no power? I've seen people on social media. If I have a rolling outage for 4 days, can I pay my bill on a rolling basis? What's your answer?
Absolutely. We absolutely are granting periods now that people need to take their time. They need to focus on getting their lives back in order and getting back on track. We are patient. And so, you know, look, our system right now, we're focused on getting the energy systems up, but give us a call because our system will normally send notices that won't cut off, but we are not cutting anybody off. We've had a moratorium on cutoffs. since March, because we understand how difficult it's been for San Antonio. And now we have this new crisis. So yes, ma'am, there's no need for people to worry that if they're late getting their payments in and don't want to fall behind, if they need a little bit more time because their internet is not working, or they just need to prioritize their life. Absolutely, we will be patient, and no worries for our community on that.
We're going to try to go back to Sig Christensen. Sig, Adrian will unmute you.
Sig, thank you for joining us. You're going to be unmuted again. Sig, can we hear you? Can you hear us?
Okay, we will.
It appears we're having some connectivity issues.
Yeah, we'll try Sig again. We are going to turn to Jessica Hernandez, our Director of Community Strategy next, and he's going to deliver an update in Spanish. We want to make sure that message in Spanish is out there as well. So Jesse, we will turn it over to you to give our update.
Thank you, Melissa. I appreciate it. Este va a ser una actualización importante de aquí de CPS Energy sobre la tormenta y los apagones que hemos estado teniendo. Actualmente no estamos completamente restaurados aquí en San Antonio y a través del estado de Texas. Hemos tenido una mejora significante durante la noche y se ha suspendido la necesidad de interrupciones en todo el estado. Sin embargo, dado que continúa el clima muy frío y lluvioso, todavía no estamos fuera de peligro. Por eso es muy importante lo de la conservación. Paula habló mucho sobre seguir con lo de conservación y sigue siendo importante para mantener estable nuestro sistema energético. Desafortunadamente, alrededor de 10,000 clientes permanecen fuera sin electricidad, que están principalmente relacionados con equipo, y nuestro personal en la ciudad continúa trabajando duro para restaurar el último cliente. Estamos trabajando las 24 horas del día para asegurarnos que nuestros clientes puedan tener energía. Ahorita el desafío que estamos teniendo, si miran fuera de sus ventanas, pueden ver que está ya nevando, y antes de que empezó a caer la nieve había hielo y eso se va a congelar. Y eso lo va a hacer más difícil para que podamos restaurar a nuestros clientes rápidamente. Pero sí, de parte de todo nuestro equipo de CPS Energy, queremos darle las gracias a nuestros clientes por su paciencia. Sabemos que es un tiempo muy difícil y todos lo estamos pasando juntos, pero les pedimos paciencia para poder sobrepasar eso que estamos pasando juntos. También, como mencionaron ya varias veces, es muy importante que sigamos con la conservación de energía, porque las temperaturas van a seguir cayendo, se va a poner extremadamente frío durante las próximas horas y eso va a causar que el consumo de energía siga creciendo. Por favor, les pedimos que continúen con la conservación de energía para que sigamos pudiendo tener la energía que necesitamos aquí en nuestra comunidad y a través del estado de Texas también. Y seguiremos trabajando las 24 horas del día para restaurar a nuestros clientes que todavía no tienen energía. Gracias. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you, Jesse. We're going to start media questions again, and I thank you all for being so patient. We are going to try to get through everybody to at least ask one question, and then if we still have time, we'll go back for follow-up questions. And I know a few of you have texted us and messaged us, and we'll make sure your questions are answered regardless. Next, we'll go to Marina Riker.
Thank you for joining us. You'll be unmuted now.
Hi, can y'all hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, awesome. I have a kind of follow-up question to Brian's question about the hospital systems. We have heard that some hospitals are now relying on water pumps to supply water and had either water pressure drop pretty significantly. I'm wondering why we had, or if it was electricity that cut out to pump stations, and what those contingency plans are for continuing those pump stations to operate, especially in those areas that serve critical facilities like hospitals.
Rudy, do you want to start this one, and I'll chime in on the back end?
Sure. Well, obviously, when we have hundreds of thousands of customers out. There are SAWS pump stations within neighborhoods and in areas to get the water pressure where it needs to be that were certainly impacted. We were focused on keeping the SAWS water tanks full throughout the event. So the coordination with SAWS has been extensive over these last 3 days. Now that we've been able to restore the majority of the controlled outages that we've been experiencing, SAWS, the number of SAWS pumps that are still out are pretty low. We're working to figure out where those are and prioritize the restoration of those. But certainly throughout the event there was impact to certain facilities, and we've been in close contact with SAWS trying to do what we can to alleviate those strains in the system. So we expect as our power has come back on, my water's been off for 2 days at my own home, and I've got a trickle this morning, so I can tell you that the water pressure is coming back slowly, and we hope that our partners at SAWS, we know are doing everything they can do to get their system back on too.
What I would add, I'm sorry,
go ahead,
let me just add a little bit to that. Absolutely, the production of energy on multiple types of our technology, our baseload power plants in particular, we require water to cool our plants and ultimately produce energy. And water systems require energy productions to their sites, to their piping systems and pumps. And so there is a direct correlation between having power outages and having water flowing. And that is absolutely important. Most of the pumps that are in the distribution system are in critical circuits and generally have been covered. But yet and still, as it got worse, as the crisis got worse, we in turn had to hit some of those critical circuits, not all of them, but some of them. And that, I think, made the situation worse. Now, there were freezing temperatures as well. And so across town, there were many, many homes that had water pipes break. And so the pressure, to Rudy's point, the pressure in the system has been, I think, ultimately affected by all of those circumstances. Now, SAWS leadership, Robert Puente, my peer, will give you the best idea about, how it really has affected his system directly. But I will definitely say that the crisis we had in temperatures, freezing temperatures, and the way that we had to constrain the energy to try to restabilize the system had an effect on the water system. Now, we hit a really bad situation, and it has been horrible for our community. And we are absolutely sorry. We just can't say it enough. We experienced those same things. And many of our employees have had, again, no power for days, and they don't have water. But they had to get out of their house and leave their homes and hope that their families could manage through that while they helped take care of San Antonio. And so we were passionate to get that stuff back on because we were having the same experiences. I will still say that as bad as it has been, what we were trying to stay away from and avoid as a system, as a state, they blackout across the state, because that is even harder to manage. There, instead of having some power flowing and the issues that we're having, which are catastrophic, I agree, it could be much, much worse. And that's why in some cases we hit some of the critical circuits that cause some of these issues. And I hope that answers the questions that are on that subject. I will turn it back over to you, Melissa.
Thank you, Paula. And now we'll go to Brendan Gibbons with the San Antonio report.
And thank you for joining us. You'll be unmuted now.
Hello. If ERCOT requires you to begin reducing demand again for some reason, and you have to re-implement controlled outages, what's the strategy you'll use to do that? Do you plan to resume using an algorithm-based system? Will you do it manually? And if it's done manually, what sort of choices do you have to make when if that is to happen again? Thank you.
Thank you, Brendan. So yes, that's a possibility that it could happen. We are still actually in the same weather event, even though the outage suspension has occurred. We're in this temporary period. We hope it goes from full outage management to suspension to everything is clear and we're back to normal. But it could be that we move from suspension back into this outage management situation that people have seen before. It would start out, we would in the same, I think, manner where we would try our best to keep outages managed 10 to 15 minutes at a time, let the rest of the hour if someone's up, and then only try to hit certain circuits several times in hopes that it restabilizes. Sometimes that does enough. In that process, we do have an automatic algorithm that will go in and manage that very smoothly and cleanly for us. What happened is the algorithm, the program that we used started out that way. And actually, it kept trying to manage the process even when the length of time was in reverse. We were only keeping people up a very short amount of time, 2 to 3 minutes, and then blinking and then nothing. When we realized that the system was moving so much, the target kept moving and it kept going up. That was the challenge. There was much more demand and it was increasing all the time above load. And so above our capacity. So that's when the system's doing what it needs to do, but it became even more irritating for our customers because it's doing it and it's just flickering and blinking and all of those things. So we moved back to manual operation of doing those outages. The algorithm, the program is just mimicking the logic that we've always used manually. It just makes it so that our operators can watch that system and multitask at the same time. What happens when we have to go manual? They focus completely on trying to manage that process. They keep a list and work that list in terms of trying to manage through. Now, I think what we're hoping to do again this time, there's probably some fine tuning we can do and try again manually to see if we can have longer outages, longer periods of being up and shorter periods of being out. But it's not a zero sum game. It's not like you just fix it. It's reacting to how big the gap is. So I think it'll actually look a lot like the process that we did before. What we want to try to do, we're trying to improve our communication processes. We're working with the city. We're trying to use their communication system so people can get more information more readily. We're now, as you see, trying to do as many daily updates with you to let you know, use our social media more if that occurs. This message today is really, really important to tell people again, the best thing we can do not to re-enter though is to conserve.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you, Brendan. Jessica Corso with the Business Journal.
Thank you for joining us. You'll be unmuted now.
Good morning, Paula and the rest of the CPS team. Thank you for doing this. I apologize if this question has already been answered. I had to leave for a moment, but how long do you think it will take to restore the around 8,000 customers who remain without power?
Jessica, wonderful question. I think if we didn't have, normally what happens is as a storm comes in, it comes in clean and it's, mostly rain. Maybe it's down lines and then it's over. Our problem that we're going to have today, of course, is that there's ice underneath the snow. And I think if we were in normal conditions, we'd probably have most everybody back up by the end of today. but we're gonna struggle overall to do that. But it doesn't mean we're not gonna try. We're gonna do our best to again make sure that we're deploying people. We've actually had a lot of our maintenance crew in just on standby, just in case there are repairs and things that are happening. So it is possible that not everybody will be restored today. That's currently my view. Rudy, do you have anything to add to that? Do you think it's different?
No, ma'am. I think that's accurate. At the end of the day, we're gonna keep working till every last customer is restored, and hope that the weather will cooperate and allow our crews to get around to do the job that they need to do. But obviously, the slipperier the roads get, the more difficult it is to move around, our community. So it will really just depend on the road conditions and the snow and just, the conditions that make it difficult for our team to do their jobs.
Thank you. Garrett Bringer.
Great, thank you for joining us. You'll be unmuted now.
Howdy. Now, just wanted to confirm that the 8,200 or so that are still on the outage map right now, those are all because of equipment failures. And additionally, I wanted to ask, the outage map shows that some of those power outages have been happening since Monday. So I wanted to know, it's two-part, confirm that that's all because of equipment failure. And then why have those issues not been fixed before now, specifically the ones that have been, several days since Monday?
So when we're trying to go through all of these things to re-levelize the power, again, the outage management process isn't just because we're trying to irritate customers at all. The outage management is a requirement to rebalance. It's part of the rebalancing, not just in San Antonio, but across the state. But that process of pushing power on and off can sometimes cause fuses to blow. And what can actually happen is there could be other damages that happen directly, equipment associated with providing that power close to the customer. So there's a physical need to make that repair before they can come online. That we needed to get that people out of outage so that we could stop that process, because even if we had sent somebody out earlier to repair the equipment, it's already failed in a fault there. It needs a physical fix, but it would blow again. And so it wouldn't have helped at all, and it actually would have caused probably potentially more damage and a bigger issue to correct, and a longer physical outage and repair at that time. So that is why we couldn't get in front of it. That the sequence is, we have to get the load management issues out of the way, and then we can isolate what's happening at that actual location. And there all could be a little bit difficult, that we have to look at each one separately and design the right fix for the home, the neighborhood that we're working with.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to Diego Mendoza Moyers.
Thank you for joining us. You'll be unmuted now.
Yeah, hey, y'all. Hope everyone's holding up okay. I think we all get that this is a sort of an unprecedented weather event, and the outages are mandated by the state. But I'm just wondering if, from this event will emerge any sort of change in thinking to CPS's resource planning or the fuel mix that the utility utilizes moving forward, just to kind of prevent this from happening again. And if not, I'm wondering if CPS is likely to, make investments in weatherization or other sorts of, infrastructure-related investments to, prevent the hard-hitting effects of cold weather.
Thank you, Diego. We always look at every event that we go through and think what we can learn and what could we do differently. Absolutely, we will look at the fact that with global warming trends that cause extreme weather events, now we really see that we're not immune, and we can have these type of negative temperatures with wind chill factors applied, negative temperatures in South Texas, just something unprecedented, but now for real. So we will do our best to go back and look at what we can do. Remember though, that these units that are currently, in the ground and have, years left on them, sometimes decades left on those units, are already done. Anything you do to retrofit something, to adjust that something that's already constructed, won't necessarily be a cheap endeavor. And so we're going to have to weigh that in terms of keeping the bills affordable. And though, talking to the community about the priorities. I know nobody wants to live through this again. So we will prioritize where we can, try to find the best benefit of spend, and explain to the community ultimately, like, what benefits do we give by making these improvements that will help us through another major weather event like this one. So yes, we will do that. I will also say that media in particular here in San Antonio is aware that we put out a flexible path resource plan. The focus of that was to look at how do we make decisions, particularly about generation, going forward, because power plants, the other side of the equation other than the demand, is how are we producing power. We want to have a great dialogue with all of our community to look honestly at every single technology. Every single technology had a problem during this storm. There wasn't one that did not, but everyone had some benefits that offset and made sure that our diversified portfolio ultimately kept getting stronger and stronger and stronger through the storm. But when we make additional decisions in the future, we need to really kind of think about what's that right balance to help us through summer peaks and winter peaks. My group used to primarily focus on summer peaks. And we were looking at some of the data just from this week. And I said, no longer do I want to see the summer peak only. I want to see summer and winter scenarios every single time. And then we're going to bump that up over the resource plan and help us have robust conversations with our community about the long-term strategic things we need to do to make sure we're better prepared. On the wire side of the house, we're going to step up our efforts there. Again, this system has been, it's organic, it's grown with San Antonio as San Antonio's grown, but we can look at what more we can do to be as resilient as possible. I think if we try to redesign how we've grouped customers on what we call circuits, that could take quite a bit of effort. But again, we'll do whatever we need to do to look for improvements and keep working on it. And again, engage the community on how we're looking at those proposals.
Thank you, Paula. We'll go to Roxanne Gass.
Roxanne, thank you for joining us. You'll be unmuted now.
Thank you all for having us today. My question, do you feel ERCOT and Texas in general should fall under federal regulations? And if so, do you think it would have made a difference?
Roxanne, thanks for your question. The way I look at any system operator, whether they be ERCOT or one of the other large ones across the nation, is they are managing a system of generation that currently exists. And we do have some major other things to look at. We have what we call a energy market. So that energy market has helped us take advantage of the cheapest, lowest rates across Texas. We're energy rich as far as resource in Texas. And we've been very progressive as a state in terms of more solar and renewables. And so it's been great in the energy only market. The challenge we had was that we had capacity that we needed, and our prices are so low, they're not encouraging more capacity to be built. And they're also not necessarily encouraging more investment in diversified solutions. You can't just go all, I'm sorry, you can't just go all renewable. We've got to have more energy storage. We've got to have baseload generation. ERCOT doesn't decide which generation we put in. They look at the whole overall capacity. So as far as FERC excuse me, FERC doesn't also decide what a community is wanting in terms of preference. And so, I mean, FERC will provide some additional guidance and controls around how we operate. But I think there should be some very fundamental discussions across our state and our community about understanding, these decisions can't all be through one prism. Now, I will say again, when we try to make decisions going forward, we've learned you got to think about environmental responsibility, but you better look at reliability. Reliability. You better look at affordability because people can only pay so much. Safety, security, and resilience. Resilience, Councilman Manny Pelaez for years have been talking about resilience. That means the more you build the system, you also build in redundancy and it comes back quicker and you do a lot of things across that perspective. So I understand that everyone across the state and San Antonio are angry about where we are today. And we're looking at, is it a regulatory fix? But I actually think it's a strategic fix, a supply fix, a long-term effort that we all got to work together. Regulation can help, policy can help, but we ultimately need to make some more basic decisions together with our community here in San Antonio to decide how do we want to best protect everyone here.
Thanks, Paula. Sean Talbot.
Thank you for joining us. You'll be unmuted now. Looks like we're having some audio issues with Sean, Melissa.
Okay, I'm going to read the question. We had some problems with Sig's audio earlier, but he did message it to Adrian, so I'm going to ask the question that he wanted to ask. He says, Paula, I think I've heard you say, or at least suggest, that it's possible we could see larger numbers of customers lose power again. Is that the case? How much of that can be mitigated by what you are doing, and how much of it is out of your hands? How many people could find themselves in the dark again?
Well, once again, I think, I mean, it's in our hands. We are really trying to get the information out and then stay diligent on getting the about 8,000 or 9,000 people who are currently out. This right now is, assuming nothing gets worse across the grid, this right now is the normal stuff that we do. And it can be hampered by the weather locally. It is going to be difficult to get to people, but we know how to do this, and our team is all geared up and they're already doing it. Could it get worse? If the weather pattern gets worse, if again tree limbs start to break, lines start to go down, the current number of outages that we have could go up. Now we had a year, a couple of years ago, where we had freezing temperatures and ultimately, I think we got to 100,000 customers at the peak that went out because of a storm. Right now, the lucky thing, I think, is that we don't have a lot of winds. When there are winds that come in with the storm, that's what's really the worst. But we just got to hope that our trees, which we love in San Antonio, are healthy enough to handle the ice and the new snow weight that's going to come on them. This is our normal perspective that we're doing. And it looks more like a storm that we're monitoring all the way. And what our team does is they work throughout that storm. So every single day they're going to be putting, repairing. If it gets bigger, then they'll respond to that. Now, there's still this big risk out there that if we stop conserving and we stop being able to keep the plants up in San Antonio and across the states, for whatever reason, plants trip, equipment fails, things happen, we could have the big outage management process come back. And then I would tell you that, yes, we could get back up to the 200, and we saw at the peak over this outage, I think about 300,000 plus people were out because of the pressure on the grid. I can't highlight enough that process is just suspended. We are still too close in being out of balance across the state. And so it's a possibility, but conservation will matter. And everybody showing constraint and deference and concern for not over consuming energy we'll be that helpful thing. And then we will be doing what we do all the time to keep you informed, and our people will be in the field. Our skilled craft employees are amazing, and they work hard, and they work out in all of these conditions. It's amazing what they do to make happen. I will take a moment, Sean, though, to make this other point. I am concerned because we have had at least one incident where one customer was so angry about the challenges that being out, they threatened our person in the field who was trying to get them back on. Our frontline employees, our skilled craft employees, the ones that wear blue and orange and love this community as much as I do, are trying their very, very best. And they care. Again, they're leaving their families so they can get other families up. We know how angry everybody is. We ask for everyone's continued patience. We are sorry. We are working as hard as we can. But if you could be supportive of the people in the field, please. That is, as a president of the company, I have a heartfelt ask to ask you to realize they didn't cause this. This was weather-related issues, and violence is not the answer. Violence will only make things worse. San Antonio is a 2 degrees of separation. Puro San Antonio. We do everything right for each other, and nobody intended for this to happen. And we take responsibility for getting everybody up. But please be patient with us, and we will work as hard as we can to get everybody up.
Thanks, Paula. Keith did message us that he didn't have access to a microphone, and we saw a similar question in terms of a follow-up. But Keith's question is, if a person hasn't had power for days, will it somehow be reflected on your bill, on their bill?
Absolutely. I mean, it's almost automatic, because if you're not consuming energy, then there is no, there are no kilowatt hours to come on your bill. So there will be some relief just automatically from that standpoint. As far as any other items of relief, I just think it'll be directly related to not consuming energy, and so that's huge. This said, we will have to, the next tsunami after the reliability crisis that we have here will be an affordability crisis. And what I mean by that, I mentioned this yesterday, the cost of procuring fuel has gone up just extraordinarily. And that market is also a supply and demand market. When you have a whole lot of people requiring more, particularly natural gas, than ever before, particularly at this time. And so the demand is going up, but the supply, there's problems with the supply, freezing wellheads, freezing pumps, processing of the natural gas that cannot happen. Then the demand is going to exceed the supply. The supply is being constrained. It is a problem. We saw prices increase initially 7,000%, then 10,000%. Then I thought I saw 16,000%. I don't have all the details. I'm just monitoring at high level with my team, and we're assessing it now. This is going to be a huge issue for the state about what's happened overall. Relative to San Antonio, we're going to try to fight in terms of how can we create some arrangements so that we can smooth that out over a long period of time and make sure that we keep our access to the fuel up, but spread that out. So our financial team has been working just as hard, and even our CFO hasn't had power, up to this point for 3 days. He's been in his car, charging his batteries and trying to work with his team to figure out financial arrangements to smooth this out for the San Antonio market. And so that's the next thing. So we're going to be looking at long-term affordability, but immediately bills won't have pressure because there wasn't any demand at their house when their power was out.
Thanks, Paula. We'll go to Taylor Petaway next.
Thank you for joining us. You'll be unmuted now. Taylor, if you're speaking, we cannot hear you. Looks like we're having audio issues with Taylor.
Okay, we'll come back to you, Taylor, if we have some time. We'll go to Stanford Nowlin with the current next.
Stanford, you'll be unmuted now.
Great. Yeah, I was just curious. I mean, there are certainly plenty of people who have raised the concern that what we're seeing right now is a result of climate change, and that climate change is likely to result in more aberrant weather patterns in the future. And I wanted to see if you could talk about what CPS is doing strategically to prepare for, aberrant weather that we're likely to see as the climate changes.
Sanford, thank you for that question. I would go back to the flexible path resource plan. The discussion that we want to have community-wide with everyone really is in response greatly to what do we want to do in terms of looking at our generation strategically. And the way we broke that out, and we'll, after this crisis is over, we'll be spending time, and we'll be glad to give media briefings on that as well. What we did is we looked at what if we're on the same path where we're trying to make those changes, we're trying to be proactive in terms of creating a bundle of power that is solar storage and firming capacity and being very blended, and that's our current flexible path track. But if we need to ultimately close the coal units sooner rather than later, because from an environmental standpoint, they do have more emissions than any of them, what would that look like? What could that look like? Now, those will help us on the generation side to have those discussions to decide how fast does the community want to go. But it's not, it's not just without its implications. There are going to be bill impacts the faster that we move to make some of those decisions, but they are in direct response to trying to resolve some of the issues around climate that are real and that, of course, are coming. We will have to, and we're already working on that, but this is new information with this storm about how real these threats about extreme weather patterns are currently. So we're living through that change. And so a lot of the earlier things that I talked to you about we'll have to figure out, we'll look at everything, like how do we change maybe the way we've grouped customers? Is there more technology we can put in close to customers so we can have a better way to restore power quickly, manage those things? They're not all explored, but to your point, of all the pillars that we are working to manage, we've got to keep in mind that we're still going to be experiencing real issues while we're trying to get to these long-term goals. So we'll be providing the community with some different insights. And then as we're having conversations as well about generation, how all of that fits together. But yeah, it will be a big continued focus as we move forward strategically.
Thanks for joining us, Stanford. We'll go to Josh Sanchez.
Josh, thank you for joining us. You'll be unmuted now. Josh, if you're speaking, you're on mute. We have unmuted you. Looks like we're having audio issues with Josh, Melissa.
Okay, thank you, Adrian. We have gone through all of the reporters. I know we're coming up here on an hour, and we do thank you all for joining us today. If we didn't get to your question, the team and I will be available to help with any follow-up answers that you need. We are doing these briefings daily, and we do really appreciate your help in spreading the word to our customers and community. I am going to turn over to our leaders so that they can give a quick recap as we close this out. And I'm going to start with Jesse Hernandez.
Thank you, Melissa. Buenos días nuevamente a todos. Quería hacer un resumen rápido. Nuevamente, dándole las gracias a nuestra comunidad por la paciencia que nos han proveído para que mantengamos siguiendo restaurando a nuestros clientes. Sabemos que todavía hay aproximadamente 8.500 clientes que todavía no tienen energía, pero vamos a seguir funcionando para restaurar su energía lo más pronto posible y hacerlo seguramente. Sabemos que las temperaturas siguen bajando y sigue cayendo nieve y lo va a hacer un poquito más difícil, pero vamos a seguir trabajando las 24 horas del día para restaurar a esos clientes que todavía no tienen energía. Si es posible que si siguen bajando las temperaturas, nuevamente vamos a seguir a tener que conservar energía y les pedimos a la comunidad que sigan conservando energía para que todos tengamos un poquito de energía para poder todos prevenir otros apagones más serios. Y nuevamente gracias a la comunidad y si tienen algunas preguntas, por favor comuníquense con nosotros aquí en CPS Energy. Gracias. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you, Jesse. Rudy, you want to give some closing thoughts, please?
Yes. Number one, thank you for being with us today. To all the media outlets who continue to report on this event. I would ask our customers, we appreciate you. We appreciate your patience. We apologize for the distress to you and your families. And we'll continue apologizing for, the stress this has caused in our community. We are going to work hard to ensure every last customer is on. So as Paula said, please give our team members in the field room to work. It's snowing outside again. I would ask everybody to please stay off the roads. You staying off the roads allows our first responders and our team members to move more freely across the community without the concern of vehicle accidents. And we want you to be safe. For those who are out and continue to be out, when your power does come back on, if you can remember to try to bring on the equipment in your home that is most needed. Do it slowly and in a thoughtful manner so we can maintain your service and not overload the system. But we are going to be working to reach out to all the customers who are off to do wellness checks and make sure you know that we're working on your service. And again, anybody who has been out and remains out, if you are in any kind of medical distress or emergency, we ask you to call 911. We've been working very closely with the fire department as calls have come in to make sure people are getting the medical attention that they need. We will continue to do that through the remainder of this event until everybody's service has been addressed. So thank you for your patience. Thank you for the questions today, and we really appreciate our community and pulling together during this really difficult time. Thank you.
Thank you, Rudy, and I will turn it over to Paula for closing thoughts.
I have to also start with a great big thank you to our San Antonio customers and a great big apology for even whatever it is in terms of whether the impact on our customers and their families have been incredible. And we are sorry that they're going through it, and we're working in as hard as we can to bring them back. I can't highlight enough that our crews in the field, our skilled craft employees, our union leaders and union members, IBEW and NAPE, our frontline employees that are listening and taking phone calls, while they don't really focus on their families, they're taking phone calls as many as they can, and actually making phone calls to outreach to employees. And these energy advisors are highly skilled, and they absolutely care to be helpful. But we have fleet workers and warehousers and mechanics and everybody in between. San Antonio is a reflection of a very diverse portfolio of people, and CPS Energy is like a city within a city. But you are our neighbors, families, and friends. We are here for you. We're going to work through this crisis, and we're going to do all we can to be better at responses to storms, and very much be better at the way we communicate. I want to thank all the media outlets today that, again, are here helping us get the word out accurate information, balanced information. You all have done a fabulous job, I believe, in really giving people the best information that we could give, and it really, really matters overall. When we hang up, we're going to have to go hit it again. I'm going to very quickly try to do this here so you can see my face. It's not that I don't want to see you all. We are working from home to keep ourselves off the road and let our employees who are in the field work through this. I'm going to cut it off again. It's not that we're doing anything else but working around the clock. We work through the night. We call each other. We connect. We're constantly looking at 24/7 how we can bring this back on. We do sometimes have technical issues. We do sometimes have problems with our phone system. Power affects everything. It affects water. It affects communication. It affects how we live. And so we thoroughly understand that. Please know that you may not see us, but 3,100 People First champions are here working for this community that we love, and we won't stop. Thank you so much.
Thank you again, everybody, for joining us. We do, again, appreciate your support. You can continue to look for updates on our social media platforms, especially our Twitter page. It's proven to be a very fast way to communicate. If you can continue to share that messaging, and especially the messaging about conservation that you heard today from our leaders, is going to be really important. So we'll continue to give you updates. We will send out an afternoon update via Twitter, and we'll make sure that you're tagged so that you can help us. We appreciate it and encourage everybody to stay safe. Thank you.